Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to another Saturday discussion on Talking Films Online. This week we are discussing the Telugu film MARO CHARITRA, which was released in 1978. The film was suggested by Dr. Nishi Pulugurta. Dr. Nishi Pulgurta is Associate Professor, Department of English, Brahmananda Keshav Chandra College, Kolkata. Her areas of research are British Romantic literature, Indian writing in English, the diaspora, Shakespeare adaptation in films, and so on. Dr. Pulgurta has published in refereed international and national journals like the Coleridge Bulletin, the Encyclopedia of Postcolonial Studies, Shakespeare and Indian Cinemas, Local Habitations, edited by Poonam Trivedi and Paramita Chakravarti, the Cambridge Companion to British Romanticism and Religion, among others. She has a monograph on Derozio and a collection of travel essays called Out in the Open, an edited volume of essays on travel across and beyond. 2 volumes of poems, The Real and the Unreal and Other Poems, published in 2020. Raindrops on the Periwinkle, published by Writers Workshop in 2022. She also has a collection of short stories called The Windowsill that was published in 2021. She has edited a special issue of Café Dissensus on epidemics, pandemics, and literature, and a special feature of News India on Shakespeare in Indian cinema. Dr. Pulgurta's edited volume of essays, Literary Representation of Pandemics, Epidemics, and Pestilence, is forthcoming from Routledge. She also writes on Alzheimer's disease. So very warm welcome, Nishi, to Talking Films Online. Really glad that you suggested this film. You volunteered, in fact, to discuss this film. We really hope that TFO can become a forum where you try and test your thoughts on various films. Maybe these are films that you're researching and writing on at a particular point in time. We really hope that TFO becomes a forum where scholars can test their ideas, test their thinking on particular films. Again, a warm welcome, and over to you, Nishi.
Thank you so much, Nikhila, and thank you so much to Talking Films Online. I am greatly indebted actually to Talking Films Online because the first time Geeta had asked me to suggest a film for discussion, and I had suggested a film which was Sairat, which I spoke about in 2020. And initially, I was not sure as to which film I should pick up, but I picked it up because it was something that I was working on at that point of time. And I've actually acknowledged Talking Films Online in that paper, which was published as part of Women in Indian Shakespeares, which came out in 2021 from Bloomsbury Press. So I owe a lot to the entire discussion that happened around Sairat at that point of time. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to suggest MARO CHARITRA, because this time again, from an academic point, I am working on the film, and I hope to be enriched by the wonderful discussion that follows in Talking Films Online. So my debt to Talking Films Online is immense with reference to the earlier film that I led at one point of time. And I'm sure, I was just, before the event began, I was just talking about how you have been consistently going on with this film discussion, and I'm sure that you'll be building up a huge repertoire of archival material, which at some later point of time would be of great interest to not just students, but also to people who are interested in films per se. So this film that I chose, MARO CHARITRA, I am, as with the earlier film Sairat, once again, I am predominantly interested in it because of the fact that there are several overreaching echoes of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet in the film, which is the point that I'm arguing in the paper that I have in mind. I just begun thinking about it. So this 1978 Telugu black and white film, and the other thing is when I have been doing working on Shakespeare and Indian cinema for some years now, and I have seen people talking and discussing about Ek Duje Ke Liye, but I haven't found anyone talking about MARO CHARITRA, which is the original film, which was later remade into Hindi later on. And I thought that I should pick this film up. So the 1978 Telugu black and white film, this is a film directed by K. Balachandar. And this particular film was written also by K. Balachandar, and the film stars Kamla Hassan. This is Kamla Hassan's first Telugu film. And I've been reading that K. Balachandar had been working with this idea of bringing out a launch vehicle, so to speak, for Kamla Hassan and in Telugu. And there was also a lot of work that he had to do in selecting who would be the female lead of the film. And it is said that after innumerable auditions, Sarita was selected to act in this particular film. And of course, the film was a box office success, and not just released in Andhra Pradesh, then undivided Andhra Pradesh, but also in the neighboring states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. And very recently, I came across a news item which said that the film ran in one particular hall in Karnataka for a year. Such was the success, the box office success of this particular of this particular film. And one of the songs of the film, E Tiga Puvunu, became very, very popular. And this particular song was used in another Telugu film much later on in 2007. I think it's called Anusuya. And K. Balachandar went on to win the Best Director Award for this film at the Southern Filmfare Awards in 1979. Most people, most non-Telugu people will be familiar with the 1981 film Ek Duje Ke Liye, which once again had Balachandar as director, which had Kamal Hassan reprise his role as the male lead once again. And Sarita, of course, no longer was the heroine in the Hindi film, which had a newcomer, a new actress, Rati Agnihotri, who played the role of Swapna in this particular film. And the Hindi film also went on to become a grand success. And I've read that the film was remade into Kannada, in Odia, and it was again remade into Telugu in 2010 with the same title. And I did see the the 2010 Telugu remake some time ago. And this remake 2010 film was set in the US. It wasn't, of course, a good remake. It wasn't good at all. What K. Balachandar does in this particular story is that he relocates this quarrel between two families to one based on differences of language and culture, which is something which is so very understandable and so much a part of the multicultural ethos of India. The film is set in Visakhapatnam, and we have Telugu-speaking heroine Swapna and a Tamil-speaking hero Balu. So the story revolves around this Telugu girl and a Tamil boy who fall in love. There is also the issue of caste which comes in, which is not, there are a couple of times when this difference in caste is mentioned. And we also see these differences in terms of the food they eat, the veg, the non-veg. The film, just after the first few scenes of the film, we have this Tamilian man praying in his courtyard, and eggshells fall into his hands, which lead to the bickering right at the beginning. And when the film begins, the initial scenes of the film, we don't see the characters. Instead, the first shot of the film is the waves crashing onto boulders on the shore, and the sea and the waves and the sand and the stones on the beach, and also the buildings, a couple of buildings, an old lighthouse, a broken abandoned building, are important structures that figure a number of times, that feature a number of times in the film. And the way in which the waves crash on the boulders, it's almost as if you can understand that there is a storm that is coming. And the film, then you have the credits coming up, that a film by K. Balachandar, and the camera then zooms onto a structure which is in ruins. And what we hear are voiceovers of a girl's laughter. And then you have the camera moving the stairs, almost as if it's moving with the girl and a boy up the stairs, right up to the top of this structure, which is completely in ruins. And we have this girl who's laughing, and the laughter is one of joy, of happiness. And you can hear the man's voice as well coming. And the wind and the breeze and the waves which are lashing, the sea that is shown, there's a sense of the remote, of the vast, of the ominous that is coming. And as the girl is climbing up, you can hear her panting as she talks about how they've come so far. And you could also hear them walking, climbing up the stairs. You can hear their breath, right? Because it's a long climb and they're running up. And you hear the male voice say that this is a journey of love. And he says, the farther we go, the closer we get. And through all of this, we don't get to see the two characters. We just hear them. And even the boy's voice is one that is full of conviction, that is full of happiness. And it's very clear from their conversation, from the way in which the verbal registers are made apparent here, that here is a couple who is in love. Here is a couple who are absolutely in love with one another, and who are the young people, and they are unaware of where their love would lead them to. The camera then moves on to a wall, and scribbled on the wall are the names of Balu and Swapna. And these are the names of this young girl and this young man. And the fact that the names are scribbled on the walls is a sign that they have been there. And this is where they come often. This is where they talk about their shared dreams. This is where they spend their time together. And they begin to talk about love, what love is. And you have, this is all happening with the voiceover. Swapna is, Balu asks Swapna, what is love? And she just says there are two syllables. Yeah, because in Telugu it is prema, right? So two syllables. And, he also says that it's not just two syllables, but two alphabets, pa and ma, basically. And then he goes on to say that it's crazy. And the moment the idea of crazy is brought in, crazy is pichi in Telugu, which again is two letters and two syllables. So there is this kind of juxtaposition of love with craziness, love with insanity. And that is what Swapna begins to talk about. I mean, are you saying that people who are in love are crazy? And you still understand that these two people are moving all around the place. And with them, you can almost understand the wind moving. And the camera moves on to these various places where these young couple might have spent their time together. And we get to see their names scribbled in a number of places. We get to see footprints etched almost in the eternity of time. So it's almost as if the camera is telling us of the places where everybody has, where these two people have been all around. And then you'd notice that there is a sense of desolation in the place, a sense of haunting. because there's one scene where we get to see the place full of weeds and overgrowth, and you have the Balu character asking, why do we always come to these ruins? And Swapna replies by saying that ruins have plenty of stories in them, and it is these stories which are going to be immortal. And then comes in the question of whether their story is going to become a history, MARO CHARITRA, whether it is going to become immortal. And at that point of time, you hear the girl's cry. She stepped on a thorn. And you have Balu saying that, you cannot even bear the pain of a thorn. How will you even think of creating a history? And we see many more walls where their names are scrawled on the walls. And you have Balu telling her that we should not marry because our story should remain unfulfilled. Because only if our story is unfulfilled will it become an immortal story, will it become a MARO CHARITRA. Right, and that after this, we have the credits rolling up. So it's almost as if, we have these two characters no longer there, and a sense of haunting, where we feel their spirit all over these places, which once upon a time were the places where they, spent quite a lot of time with one another. And as the credits begin, we get to hear a kind of a chant, a voice of a woman, a song, a tune of a woman, which is laden with pathos. And then you have both the male voice and the female voice, and both of these voices sing a refrain as the music starts to rhyme with them. And that is the beginning of this. That's how this film begins. And the immediate after the credits are over, the first scene that you get to see is this gentleman standing in his courtyard praying. And when he opens his palm, you have eggshells, blown in by the wind, land into his hand. And this is Balu's father, who obviously does not eat non-vegetarian. And this begins a quarrel between him and his next door neighbor. And we understand very well that he is a Tamilian and the next door neighbor is a Telugu person. So it is not just about caste, upper caste and non-upper caste, but it's also about language. Right. So I think one of the very interesting things that the film does is that it takes this Romeo and Juliet story, and it, instead of bringing in religion or social status, it brings in, of course, there is caste, though the film does not lay much stress on it, but it predominantly emphasizes the difference of languages and culture. As I was watching the film recently, I noticed that, and I noticed this even before as well, that Shakespeare's play, the source text, Romeo and Juliet, is referred to a number of times in the film. For instance, there is one time when Swapna goes into a bookstore. She's a student in a college, and she asks for notes on Romeo and Juliet, whether the shopkeeper has notes on Romeo and Juliet. And this shopkeeper turns out to be someone who is a stalker who stalks her. And he tells her that there is no Romeo and Juliet, but there is he does have notes too of Love's Labour Lost. And when he says Love's Labour Lost, he is not referring to the play, but he's referring to the fact that love stories end in tragedy. So it's absolutely useless to look for love stories. And this man, the shopkeeper, is the villain in the play who, as I said, stalks her when she's on her way to college. And it is on one such occasion when she is riding a bicycle that she's stalked by this man who follows her on a scooter. And she then notices a young man who is out on a run. He's running. And this young man is Balu, and she stops him and she begins to talk to him just in order to avoid the stalker. And, she tells him, and she's carrying this conversation in Telugu. She tells him that she had to interrupt his run and she had to talk to him because there's someone who's stalking her. And she keeps on talking and talking. And Balu, of course, does not reply because what she's saying does not have any sense, does not make any sense to him because he doesn't understand Telugu. And later on, when she sees that he's not replying, she thinks that possibly he has a problem speaking, but then he tells her that he doesn't know Telugu, the language that she's speaking. He is a Tamilian. And the two families are, as I said, seen earlier in the play as well, earlier in the film as well. Even before we get to see Swapna and see Balu in this film, we get to see Balu's father and Swapna's father quarreling, and Balu's mother and Swapna's father trying to take their respective spouses indoors. So even before we get to see Balu and Swapna, we have these two people that we see, and that the war of words, the bickering that happens, is something that is seen throughout, in particularly in the first half of the film. So the differences are, of course, not just in language and culture, but in food habits as well. Swapna's father teaches English literature, which is another reason why a lot of discussion on Shakespeare comes into the text, into the film as well. For instance, when his wife is shouting at the next door neighbor, he speaks about Taming of the Shrew and about how his first class that particular day is the Taming of the Shrew. And here, when he's talking about the Taming of the Shrew, he's not just talking about the play, but he's also has his wife in mind when he refers to the play, because just a little while before, he had witnessed that war of words where neither his wife nor his neighbor wanted to bring an end to their quarrel. And in spite of the fact that both of the respective spouses, the other halves, try to stop the bickering, it does not stop at all. The other very strong image that I found in the film is the idea of time and the image of the clock, which figures prominently in the film. There is one scene in the film where Balu and Swapna, this is after they have fallen in love, where they go into a shop that sells clocks, and almost they're trying to talk to one another. And at that point of time, the clocks begin to chime together. And so I feel there's this sense of time, of the passing of time, which is important, as very soon in the story, the two lovers will be forced to stay apart for a year to prove the constancy of their love for one another. There is this other scene as Balu's father, and I find that a very interesting scene, where Balu's father and Swapna's mother, as usual, are quarreling and arguing, and you can hear the sounds of their quarrel. You have Balu playing a tune on the mouth organ, and Swapna reading from the play. And of course, the play that she's reading from is Romeo and Juliet, and the father and daughter are having a discussion on the play. And the lines that she reads are, "What's in her name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And her father begins to explain to her the lines, these lines from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. However, Swapna is not interested in the Shakespearean text, because her attention is focused on Balu, who is in the neighbor's house, in just the next house next door, who's playing on with the light switch. He switches it on, he switches it off. A kind of non-verbal register with which the lovers communicate. And this is not one. There are a couple of times when they do that. One, for instance, is when they're washing clothes. They're beating the cloth on the stone. The other is when they beat a rhythm on the book. All right. So in a film where language and differences of language become important, I think these non-verbal registers symbolize how communication between two people deeply in love, people who are not conversant or fluent in each other's language, but they're able to communicate with one another. And you see Balu buying a book on how to learn Telugu in 30 days, while Swapna buys one that will teach her in Tamil in 30 days. So for them, for Balu and Swapna, language is no barrier, and which of course is a very, very strong barrier for their parents, particularly for Balu's father and for Swapna's mother. They are separated for a year. The family decides to separate them for a year because both families are at loggerheads and the lovers are persistent, and a friend comes up with the idea, a common acquaintance, not exactly a friend, comes up with the idea that the lovers need to be separated to test the constancy of their love. And if they are constant for a year, then of course, they could, some other solution could be thought of. And Swapna agrees to this immediately because she's very sure that her love would stand the test of time, while Balu, of course, refuses. And she convinces him, once again, standing by the seaside, those familiar places, she convinces him. He's sent away from Vizag to Hyderabad, which corresponds to the period of exile in the film. However, he cannot bear to be away from her, and he comes back to her. He meets her at a window, and she refuses to see him because she wants to be true to this agreement that she'd had with her parents. And there is a dialogue there where Balu says that, everyone in the world can see her, whether it's an animal or whether it is a bird or an insect or an ant. And it's only he who cannot see her, which is almost a verbal rendering of Romeo's lines in Romeo and Juliet, where he talks about this same thing as well. And I was talking about right in the beginning where we get to see those names scribbled on the walls. And there are several scenes in which Balu and Swapna write their names, the names written on the walls, in the sand, only to be washed away. And I think this writing of these names possibly highlights the preoccupation with the concept of names as being part of one's identity. When during this period of estrangement, when they are separate from one another, Swapna's mother says something about Balu, and what Swapna does that whole day is that she writes his name on all the walls of her room, leaving her mother completely seething in anger. So names, identity, language, I think are important themes in the film, that deals with barriers of language and culture and personal identity. The second half of the film, where Balu moves to Hyderabad, begins to work, also has a particular episode where there is a misunderstanding, and he's given to believe that Swapna is wedding her cousin. And that is when he begins to he begins to be completely disillusioned at that point of time, and he falls in love with Sandhya, and who is a young widow who's absolutely cut off from society, who is holed up into herself, but with whom Balu forms a very nice bond of friendship initially. But when he begins to think that Swapna is no longer true to him, this friendship develops into a romance, and they're almost going to get married when Sandhya finds out that the truth about Balu and Swapna's story, and it is she who tells him to leave Hyderabad and go back to Vizag and go back to Swapna, because a year of their separation is almost coming to an end. And Sandhya's brother, who would have done anything and everything for his sister's happiness, when he finds this out, he sends villains to kill Balu, because he thinks that Balu is shying away from marriage. And in the meantime, Swapna, who's been pursued by the stalker a number of times, she's once again pursued by him, and she's raped, and she commits suicide. And the film ends with the suicide of both Balu and Swapna, as Balu, who is beaten up by these villains, because both of them do not want to live in a world that is so much against love. I'm reminded of the fact that when the Hindi version of the film Ek Duje Ke Liye was released, there were instances told of several lovers committing suicide and Balachandar deciding to change the film's ending. Of course, audiences disapproved of the changed ending. And I think, so the film ends, therefore, with both the lovers dead. And this is something that one notices, and almost we've been prepared for this sad, tragic ending right from the beginning, when we have the initial scenes where we can all, and if you see those initial scenes in the light of what happens later on in the film, you almost begin to see that those initial scenes kind of prepare one or set the atmosphere for what is to follow later on in the film. So I think I'll stop here, and we could take on questions and comments.
Okay, thank you, Nishi, for taking us through the film. The film is now open for discussion. Anyone who wants to begin the discussion at this point? Just so that people kind of gather their thoughts and warm up to the film. Oh, Geeta, you wanted to come in? Yes, please go ahead.
No, please go ahead, Nikki.
Okay, so I was just saying a couple of things. One, of course, that the film that released in 1978, so that means it's more than 30 years old. And it's still, eminently watchable. I mean, there's nothing, dated about it, and you can't watch it. Nothing like that. It was quite gripping, and though it is long, it was quite gripping and is eminently watchable even now. The second aspect to me was, of course, the women characters in the film. Starting from, of course, the role played by Sarita to Papa to Sandhya. So all of them, I thought, they were quite striking. I was wondering, what their functions are. Are they kind of, are they there in some ways to define each other? So Papa is someone vis-a-vis whom I think she's called Papa, right? The bank woman.
Yes.
Yeah. So vis-a-vis whom the role played by Sarita, Swapna. So Swapna is defined vis-a-vis Papa. Swapna is also a modern young woman. But then it looks like the film is kind of, drawing our attention to two kinds or two trajectories of modern love. And somehow defining these two women against each other. So I thought that was interesting. And also Madhavi. So these three women, kind of their function seems to be in some ways, repositioning the characters, in different kind of locations vis-a-vis each other. So this was an idea. Maybe I have to think a little bit more, but I thought the function of these characters was somewhat interesting.
And strong characters also. All the three women.
Yeah.
Very thinking women, absolutely, deciding on what to do and what not to do, how to go on with their life. It's, Swapna deciding that they should go ahead with the separation, or the Sandhya character, Madhavi, deciding that, now is Balu should go back. And even Papa, she's somebody who is almost in control of her life. Right? I think all the three characters, I think you are right. When you say that they might be kind of responding to one another, because they're three very individualistic, very, very strong characters in their own right, all the three of them.
Yeah, in some ways, Papa seems to be, a kind of extreme version of Swapna, and yet someone whom, Swapna, she could become Papa, but yet it's like he's holding back, and he's saying, well, she's not Papa, she's not desperate, or for love or whatever. I have to think this through, but just offhand, I'm saying that these three seem to me like that. The second question that I kept asking myself, again, this is also something that is a kind of a half-formed idea here. I was thinking of how, probably a little over a decade ago, maybe, in the late 50s, from the late 50s through the 60s onwards, when films were getting made in Madras, they were getting made in Telugu and Tamil simultaneously, the multiple, at the same time, simultaneous production of films. I don't know if at that point in time, Telugu and Tamil were in any way pitted against each other, because I think in some ways, the same personnel were moving in, particularly Telugu filmmakers were, moving in, competing for the Tamil market as well as for the Telugu market. I thought as a moment in moment of shift, in Madras filmmaking, where a filmmaker in Madras is making a film, a Telugu film, where, these two languages and the two characters in some ways are embodiments of the two languages too. So I don't know, if one can take it forward. Sridhar is there. Maybe he'll have something to say, but if one can situate this film on also in the post-linguistic reorganization of states and the politics around that, because when you were making films simultaneously in the two languages, you made it from the same space, probably competing for the same audience, made narratives that were probably just differentiated by having different stars in them, just substitute Tamil actors for Telugu ones. At this point in time, it's interesting that Balchandar decides to make a Telugu film, pitting characters who are opposed to each other, and does not go back and make a Tamil film, in the same with the same script. So there is no Tamil remake. Of course, as you said, there is a Hindi remake, but that is different. So it's like it's a film that can't be made in the other language now. So while there was just a decade ago, there was this moment where films were getting made in both languages. I don't know if MARO CHARITRA announces a certain moment where languages can't now. They are pitted against each other. So these were the two thoughts that came to my mind. Of course, it has to be thought through and worked out, but just some, starting ideas to get the discussion going. Geeta has also unmuted. Yes, you want to say, Nishi, please go ahead. Yeah.
The thing about language that you talk about, with Caleb K. Balachandra, Tamil speaking person, deciding to make a Telugu film, launching a Tamil actor into Telugu. And that is definitely an interesting thing, the idea of language. If you look at it in the what you say, I think that definitely something that, one needs to think about, I think.
Yes, Geeta, you've unmuted. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. One thing that struck me as you were talking about the three women, Nikhila, was this character of Papa. She reminded me of several, Hindi movie characters in the 60s and early 70s film, generally characterized as a vamp, the one who drinks and smokes and all that. So, representing, the bad kind of modernity, so to speak. And as against that, you have the heroine, who in this case, like as Nishi said, she is individualistic, she has agency, but at the same time, she has to necessarily be represented as virginal and pure, because if you look at the way she reacted to the first kiss, that seemed quite contrary to, her otherwise modern, even her body image, the clothes she wears and everything, showing one kind of modernity. But those things apart, what for me was interesting about the film was, of course, the politics of language. And this, Telugu, Tamil speakers have always had, some kind of a contentious, relationship. And the history of Telugu speaking people settling in different parts of what is now called Tamil Nadu dates back right back to the 15th century. And a lot of these people who moved were, either traders or craftsmen, especially weavers. And that is where this question of caste, comes in. It is telling that the Telugu speakers in the movie are the ones who are the lower caste people, the ones who eat non-vegetarian food and so on. But as Nishi has rightly said, that caste as an issue is, kind of downplayed in the film. And even much later, in fact, I think it was the Jayalalitha government that had even banned the Telugu language in Tamil Nadu. And the Tamil nationalists have often said that, a person like M.G. Ramchandran, who had migrated from Kerala, and therefore he shouldn't be, ruling Tamil Nadu. And Karunanidhi's ancestors were supposed to have been Telugu speakers from Andhra. So Tamil nationalism has kind of, always focused on, it's almost like Tamil nationalism equals linguistic nationalism. So this part of the film I thought was interesting for me.
Okay. Anyone else would like to come in now? Yes, Sanjay, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
I was thinking about the patriotism which is promoted here in a very nuanced way. Of course, it's not so dominant. But the first time when Balu goes for this party where people are drinking, and they ask him whether he drinks or smokes. So he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. And immediately Sandhya's brother says, "Oh, Indian." So all of a sudden, like, okay, if this is the kind of identity that, okay, if you don't, I mean, Indians don't smoke, they don't drink. And all these people, they are supposed to be representing Western culture, for which we don't have enough evidence in the film that how come they become Western, whether Sandhya's brother has lived in the West or, through any other means. And also the next time, which is completely contrived, when Sandhya says that you don't like Indian sentiments. This is something all of a sudden from where it comes. What is the context? Because when Sandhya's brother has already asked his friend to to hit or to kill Balu. So Sandhya is saying that, his brother doesn't like Indian sentiments. Again, all of a sudden, this kind of patriotism, contrived patriotism is promoted second time. And we don't have much of this proof that how come this Sandhya's brother has links with the people like his friend who can be asked to kill someone who harbors criminal friends, let us say, quote unquote, but at least someone who is ready to kill on his behalf. So all of a sudden he becomes a villain. Until now, we have been enjoying, okay, there's a party and people are drinking and merrymaking, but he becomes a villain. So that seems to be very contrived, and it's like there is this idea of patriotism is promoted that, okay, if you are an Indian, then you're not supposed to drink and smoke, and drinking and smoking is Western. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, thank you, Sanjay. Any response, Nishi, or we'll ask others to. You want to come in, Nishi? Yeah.
Yeah, drinking and smoking is as something Western is a very stereotypical notion that we get to see, in films as well, and even otherwise, it's generally held to be something Western, something alien to Indian culture. That's, I think, is a stereotypical idea that several films, Hindi and otherwise, I think, do refer to that.
I was just wondering if it's just coming across like that in translation, or is the Telugu dialogue actually saying it? So, I mean, I haven't watched that sequence closely enough. So I was just wondering if this is just coming as the subtitle.
I don't remember that. I need to go back to see it again.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was reading subtitles, but
Yes,
in the
yes.
subtitles, yes.
I saw it in Telugu. I didn't come across the dialogue as, Indian anywhere, if I remember it correctly, because I watched it without subtitles.
No, it is there, no?
Okay.
It is there.
Okay.
It's clearly the idea of India, which is Brahminical, and then this particular director promoting certain kind of Brahminical values is already well established. I don't think we need to think twice about it. But yes, a certain kind of Brahminical idea of India, and then certain kind of negotiation of linguistic reorganization, identities, and then the non-Brahmin identity with the idea of India, Brahminical idea of India, being in negotiation with each other. All those things can be seen here. So in that sense, this film is quite interesting. Yes, it is based on Shakespeare's play, but more than the similarities, the differences is what we need to look for, and what these differences, which have been brought in deliberately or unconsciously, tell us about what this text is doing now. And now, in the sense, in 1970s and 80s, is quite interesting to look at, especially the language. It's not just Tamil, Telugu, which is coming in, English comes in. They also talk in English, and also Urdu comes in, or not Urdu, Dakhni, the Hyderabad Dakhni comes in, and then the varieties of Telugu comes in. These are all quite interesting things that come there.
Sanskrit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead, Tarkeshwar.
Over.
Okay. Okay. Any other points? Any response, Nishi, to what Tarakeshwar was saying?
I think agree with his view of that Brahmanical way in which things are presented and which were presented for a very, very long time. Right. I think that is strong in the film as well, though it's, I mean, issue of caste is not brought out very, very strongly, as I said before. The language thing becomes more important, and there is, there's one point where they're going to be separated, and you have Balu saying that, give me 30 days, I'll learn Tamil, and I will teach you Tamil. I will also write poetry in Tamil. So I kind of feel that there's more emphasis on the language that they are talking about. Right. And yes, of course, while the basic of the story is Romeo and Juliet, obviously the changes that are made to the text, and you have lots of other elements coming in, which is what I'm very much interested in, to see how this particular text is located in India in the 1970s in a very different kind of cultural and linguistic milieu, and yet making sense. And the Sandhya story, for instance, is something which is the Papa, the Sandhya characters. None of them are there. They're all brought in. And as Nikhila said, very strong women brought in. And we have two other women, one who's shown almost throughout the film as quarreling and bickering and almost as a cantankerous kind of a woman. And we have Papa, as Nikhila said, as Geeta said, who is presented almost like a vamp because of her very modern views, and almost presented as not a positive kind of a character in the film.
Tarakeshwar, you had unmuted. Yeah.
No, the question of morality that is brought in at the end, vis-a-vis the rape situation, I think that is also quite interesting. Interesting in the sense that it is quite common across languages in Indian films, that once you are raped, that you have no other way of living, so you have to die. So in that sense, it comes as a kind of justification for the death. But this kind of morality that is represented, and then using Shakespeare for it, and then this juxtaposition of this, once she is spoiled, she can't live with a man. That's the kind of thing. But interestingly, she doesn't have any remorse. She is not committing suicide. It is an accident. That is again quite interesting. Otherwise, generally the formula is she would commit suicide, but she's not committing suicide. She wants to escape. In the process, she dies. And again, when she comes to meet him, there is no question of death as such. She wants to leave. But he is dying. So she also dies. That is quite interesting, the way the question of rape, gender, and morality, the way these balanced are, it's the way it's configured in this film. It is similar to the run-of-the-mill films at that time, but also quite different from it. That is also quite interesting, I thought.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she does say, "I am not coming to you as a pure woman," and so on. So it's not like she has no remorse or whatever. I think it's quite clear how she views what has happened to her state. So, as you said, death is seen as the only way out for her, though it is also tied to the death of the man whom she loves. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes, Ajanta, please go ahead.
Nikhila, can I make a very uninformed comment? I've just come back to VIT and I didn't have the time to watch the film. And I only realized that this is the original of Ek Duje Ke Liye. Huh? So first of all, I want to, as always, and kind of ditto to what Nishi said, I joined because I really love the discussions. And I want to thank Nishi for choosing such a film. So, there are two, as she was discussing this, so I just want to make two kind of points. I don't know if you will even find them relevant. So one is, Vishal Bhardwaj immediately came to my mind. The way he recontextualizes Shakespeare completely. And of course, he's done this with the tragedies. Then there's another, also Apurna Shin, Arshinagar. Similarly, as Nishi says, this film is so striking because of the ways in which, he's making it, a text of his own. And then the other thing that came to my mind, and I don't know if any of you attended that, so that, many of these Kerala colleges keep organizing these really fantastic lectures. And a few weeks ago, we had the great Stephen Greenblatt, talking about his latest book on Shakespeare and Donald Trump. So how Shakespeare remains, was alive even at that time, to the dark side of his trade. And it was really a fantastic lecture. So many thoughts running through my mind, but just these, few points, because I haven't seen the original at all. But I remember what a revelation, for me, watching Ek Duje Ke Liye, not knowing who Kamal Haasan was at that time, it was kind of a transformative experience in my life. So I just wanted to, kind of say thanks to Nishi, and I will watch it in Telugu now. I don't know how much of Telugu I remember, but whatever. But thanks, and these are just 2 points that I wanted to put on the table.
Thank you so much. Yes, most people, as I was saying, as I said right at the beginning, most people, when they're talking about Shakespeare adaptations, of course, Vishal Bhardwaj is the first name that comes to mind, because Bharadwaj was very categorically doing a Shakespeare adaptation. That's how he presents it. And he does a wonderful, marvelous job with the 3 films, Maqbool, Haider, and Omkara. Vishal Bharadwaj always comes to mind first. And I think whenever I have, as I was saying right at the beginning, whenever I've come across Ek Duje Ke Liye in the context of Shakespeare adaptation, I've only seen people talking about Ek Duje Ke Liye, but because I think that is the film that is available to most people who don't speak Telugu. And which is why I decided to go back to the Telugu original. I mean, I think the first film that I saw was Ek Duje Ke Liye, and I still vividly remember watching the film. I was in school, very small in school, but I do remember watching that film. And I also remember, and as I was reading recently, I mean, the kind of popularity, the box office success that the film had, even in Hindi, where you have a new actor, a non-Hindi actor, and even the heroine, Rati Agnihotri, was she was a newcomer. This was her first film. And you had a Tamil director remaking this film in Hindi. It did a great, a huge business, a commercial success, a grand commercial success. And it did the same thing in Telugu as well, because this was Kamal Haasan's first Telugu film. Right. And I was just wondering whether, I mean, he does speak quite a number of Telugu dialogues in the film as well. But I was just wondering if, making him a Tamil person would have eased his dialogue delivery. I don't know, but he does speak a lot of Telugu dialogues in the film as well. But yes, in the context of Shakespeare adaptations, I mean, what you say about Vishal Bhardwaj does. But I think these films which come before films like this and films like Gulzar Sangur, for instance, are very good adaptations. Of course, with adaptations, we are, bringing a lot of other context, bringing a lot of other material to the board, and that actually goes out to show that you can still use Shakespeare in ways that you feel comfortable. And it's a kind of a network that we are using whenever we are using Shakespeare in the Indian context or in any other context for that matter. And it's very interesting to see what is being done with Shakespeare in a non-Anglophone culture and language completely.
Sure. Thanks, Nishi, for choosing this great film.
Nishi, I also remember in the talk that you did for TFO, you had also brought in another Shakespeare adaptation at that point in time.
Yeah, that was
Sairat.
Sairat was a Marathi film.
No, not that. No, not that. You remember
Telugu film.
Yeah, the Telugu film. When you gave a talk for this Fine Arts University last year, you gave a talk for as part of the TFO lecture series. You remember?
Yes. I do remember. There was. I didn't speak of MARO. I don't remember if I spoke about MARO Charitra, but no. I think I spoke about Gunasundari Katha.
Yes.
Which is a much older one, a 1949 film. And
yes.
there you have a little bit of the Lear story, actually. And there's another film which I did mention then, I mentioned again. I've never been able to see the film. It's a 1990 film called Yellamma, which is an adaptation of Macbeth and is set around 1857 and set in rural Telangana. But that film never had a commercial release. So I haven't been able to get a copy of that film, but it had a very good cast. I don't know why it didn't get a release. There was Revati, there was Nasir, and there was Sonali Kulkarni in that film. I've just seen stills of that film, but I've never, ever, anywhere, even seen a trailer of that film. But these are the only 3 films, I mean, as far as I know, which, kind of take Shakespeare stories. But I think Shakespeare is all over, and everything that we do, we have Shakespeare somewhere. Some kind of reference is always there.
Yeah. So, Gunasundari, you had spoken as an adaptation of which of Shakespeare's plays? I forget now.
King Lear.
King Lear. Oh, yes.
King Lear.
Right. Yeah.
The old king with 3 daughters.
Yes. Yeah,
and that particular film brings in a lot of elements of Janapadam into it. So using the folklore element. And that was 1949. Incidentally, that was also later on, I think, it was later on remade in Tamil.
Yeah, I think there is a Kannada Gunasundari as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to come in?
In one of the sessions, we had also discussed Golion Ki Ras Leela, Ram Leela. That is also another adaptation of Romeo and Juliet.
Yes. I think Romeo and Juliet is the most commonly used Shakespeare play. I mean, we have loads of takeoffs and spin-offs and adaptations of, Ajanta referred to Arshi Nagor, which once again is a take on Romeo and Juliet. And this time, Aparna Sen, she makes the Montagues and Capulets Hindus and Muslims. Right, which is also done in a number of other plays, other films like Ishaqzadeh. All of these reuse the Romeo and Juliet story, all of them, and they use the Hindu-Muslim conflict, in the films.
Okay, anyone else wants to come in now?
Nikhila?
Yes, Sridhar. Yes, we were waiting.
No. See, I have nothing to add to the discussion. Just some points that you have raised regarding the language question and Telugu nationalism, something. And actually, that it's the period when the N.T. Ramarao was coming into politics. That was the period. And also there was the efforts from Congress government and previous Congress governments to move shift the industry from Madras to Hyderabad. So giving so many boostings to it to them, and so like that we have witnessed the Ramanaidu, Nageshwar Rao, and this man N.T. Ramarao starting their studios, Krishna, during this period to bring the Telugu industry to Hyderabad. That attempt was happening during this period. But as far as movie itself, I have another question actually. See, we had the kind of thing called remaking films. But of late, we also witness not remake, but re-release. For some reasons, the old movie itself is getting released. For example, in Telugu, we have Maya Bazaar. That got only re-released, but it is not never made again. And of late, it is Kushi, the Pawan Kalyan's film, also got released. The pre-pandemic, whatever films released during pandemic time, got getting released in having theatrical release. But this is different. So, in that sense, something is interesting is, but I do not know why it is happening. Why they are releasing when the stars are alive and they are also acting, they are doing films. So I do not know, but so for some reasons they are getting released. For so in that sense, when you go back and see the language question or Balchandar, maybe the conditions that made him to make this movie in Telugu, maybe there are no takers in Tamil to sponsor that film that time, or there was a competition. We do not know. But for some reason it got released and clicked. But the many movies also made around that story. So nothing was such a hit, such a successful venture like MARO CHARITRA. So they tried to change the conclusion instead of the killing of the characters, making them alive. So physical, by killing, they made it eternal. Here, the different path is taken, but they were not clicked, not received well also. They just came and left. So the Tamil Telugu question you can only see in Madras. But Hyderabad, when it comes to Hyderabad, when industry is shifting during that period, I don't think even now, even if you see Telugu industry, though it is 30, 40 years old now in Hyderabad, technical dependency on Chennai did not change. You may have the script writers or the other technicians, but many, for example, stunt masters, dance masters, music directors, many fields, they depend on Chennai only. Even for the processing the film, they depend more on Madras, not much in Hyderabad itself. Even though 40 years over, that industry shifted. So the time and again, the people who concerned about it raised it, but nothing much happened. Even the star cast, when they do, they don't take local, but they take outsiders with a different name to some kind of to bring some attention or whatever, but they don't use local talent or local star cast or anything. They bring only outsiders, whoever, however they are bad or poor, doesn't matter. They bring it. That is there. But it's nothing related to film as such. As I said, it is whatever the Nikhila was raising when in her initial remarks. And I'm adding that what is this, the rebirth of these movies. When stars are alive, they are acting, some re-releases are happening. There are quite a few films got released like that, theatrical release. Like Sholay. Sholay got released several times. Like that, these movies also, or maybe you people know better, know that why this kind of cult is there. But some reason, I think that, see, new releases are not getting theaters to be released, but old films are getting released. New films doesn't get theaters.
Was MARO CHARITRA re-released, Sridhar? I didn't know that.
No. I'm saying, I said that I'm not talking anything about MARO CHARITRA.
Okay.
I was telling about this cult films.
Yeah.
It is occurring.
Yeah.
And they are alive in itself. This one, Balchandar one, I think that time Telugu industry is shifting. More aggressively it changed after NTR became chief minister in 82. 81 it got released, 82 he became chief minister, but by then it is well rooted. So that this is also to make sure that films can be produced from Hyderabad. So they try to bring the made films in Hyderabad. All those reasons may be there, why they did it in Telugu.
No, that was precisely my point, where maybe a decade earlier, they might not have played up Tamil versus Telugu, but at this point of time, as you said, with the shift of production to Hyderabad and Telugu film industry establishing itself, now it's probably easier for cinema. I mean, these two are contiguous languages. And I think, after Madras Manade and all that movement, I think there is a little more animosity. There was a little more animosity between Telugus and Tamils, just a decade before. So probably it's not like, Balchandar is making the girl Bengali or something like that. So it is almost as if, it has to be a neighboring language, and the animosity is not just between two individuals, but it's also there historically, culturally, which it is probably trying to encash through the film. That was how I read it. But as you said, I may be wrong. Yes, Sridhar.
What I'm telling is that may not be the animosity, but to familiarize Hyderabad to industry. And there are lots of boostings and lots of discounts they gave to familiarize Hyderabad. That may be the reason. We do not know. Someone who is expert in films only can tell. I do not know.
Yes, Tarakeshwar has unmuted.
No, I think the language question is getting interested. Yes, it's one way to look at it in terms of why he made it in Telugu, and then the language issue. But the other way of looking at it is why he did not make it in Tamil. I think that question is also very important. He remakes it in English, but not in the Tamil. Was it this intended as a kind of bilingual film? Because there's a lot of Tamil in the film itself, in that sense, and there is also English. So, is there some other issue that made him not to make it in Telugu, sorry, in Tamil? And also the question of the star and the linguistic identity. Rajinikanth is seen as the body that owns up the Tamil identity. Though Kamala Hassan is popular in Tamil Nadu, but he is not seen as the icon of Tamil. And then the Balchandar and then the Kamala Hassan combination, and then they coming into Telugu at this point of time, I don't know. I think this needs to be further pushed and try to, we need to make sense of it. So the question is not why he made in Telugu, but why he did not make it in Tamil, or why he did not make it a multilingual production. Is an interesting question to ask, I think.
Yeah, that's precisely what I was asking. Yes, anyone else?
Interesting, and Tarakeshwar and Sridhar also brought in important things which need to be looked into. I was reading somewhere, I don't remember what it was, but the film was meant to be a launch vehicle for Kamala Hassan in Telugu films. That's about it. But other than that, I've not come across much on this film.
No, the question is why there is a need to launch him in Telugu. Because earlier the practice was multilingual production. Because everything was located in Chennai. A film used to be made in 2 or 3 languages almost simultaneously, or with a few years gap. The main characters would change, but the other characters would be almost, they work in both films. So that was multilingual production was very common. And then I think 50s and 60s is the time when the linguistic identity gets hardened, and then it adds its own repercussions on the film industry. And then again, this issue between Kamala Hassan and Rajinikanth, and then the Tamil identity at that point of time, maybe that is quite interesting why it needs to be launched in Telugu. But interestingly, after 80s, this entire Telugu Bidda project, in 90s, there is not much animosity between Telugu and Tamil in terms of industry. Most of the films are dubbed and then released, and there is no problem in watching them, either in Tamil Nadu or in Andhra, Telangana. So in that sense, this so-called animosity is not the animosity that existed between Kannada and Tamil, which continues to exist because of Kaveri. So this Madras issue was there, yes, but it died out. So I think that did not continue. And Telugu Bidda concept was not vis-a-vis Tamil, but vis-a-vis center. Vis-a-vis Congress, it was articulated. So the entire movement is not actually anti-Tamil, but anti-center. So in that sense, in 90s, we don't see Telugu-Tamil animosity in terms of films at all. It is almost settled. The Tamil films are dubbed into Telugu, and Telugu films are dubbed into Tamil, and people have no problem in watching them.
That's true, very true. The issue, there is another element, Tara. It's like Kamal Hassan's Tamil movies dubbed into Telugu, and he was well received, like Dulquer Salman today.
Yeah.
Most of his films on YouTube and some other platforms, people watch and request him to act in Telugu. So in such a a pattern, Kamal Hassan might also have acted in Telugu at that point of time. He wanted to make a Telugu movie entry so that the direct Telugu movie. In that part, in Dulquer Salman also, Sita Ramam is planned like that. So there are Telugu audience, lots of them following him. So he wanted to make a film in Telugu itself, direct Telugu. In that sense, Sita Ramam came.
No,
So,
the analogy is fine between the Kamal Hassan and Dulquer Salman, but the context is different. The OTT platform context, where you can watch any movie in any language.
no, see, Tara, you are not getting my point.
No, I got
See,
the point. Analogy, I said, fine. But the context of Dulquer Salman and then the context of Kamal Hassan are two different periods.
a context, the context I am saying is, Kamal Hassan became popularized among Telugu audience without being acting in any Telugu movie.
That's what I said. Dubbing is not a problem at all between Telugu and Telugu.
Listen, here it is not the question which language they acted. They felt that for audience sake, we should act in their language. That is what happening. That's a different thing. Not platform or dubbing or what anything. So they wanted to act in Telugu directly. In that sense.
I don't know, Sridhar, but like as Tarkesh was saying, if we look at the different context, this film is coming after the Potti Sriramalu agitation. It's not so much about the Telugu Bidda context as much as the Potti Sriramalu context, which was, if I'm not wrong, against carving state away from the Tamil people for the Telugus. So it follows maybe a couple of decades later, but something which was subterranean may have been articulated. It was possible to articulate this difference at this point in time in a film from Madras. So I mean, that was how I was reading that moment.
Telugu do not have any animosity language say. They have only contestation for capital city, Madras. They do not have any. Even Madras is not at all opposed to create a Telugu state. It is created. Before this man sat for hunger strike, for hunger strike for Madras as capital of Telugu state, Andhra state, not for Andhra statehood. Andhra statehood has happened for before the linguistic reorganization itself, 1953. So the Potti Sriramalu died in 56. After that, not to make Madras as capital of Telugu, Andhra state. He's not. His one is not for anything.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Madras Manade movement, which increases the animosity between Telugu and Tamil, it doesn't?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I don't think. Even now, Telugu dependency is more on Madras.
I see.
Typical things. 70% of production happens in Madras.
Okay.
No, the animosity that exists between Kannadigas and Tamilians is not seen between Telugu and Kannada. Sorry, Telugu and Tamil.
That's true. In Kannada context, Kaveri is there. Kaveri is there. But Telugu context, even now, they depend on the Madras-based technicians. Even now.
Certainly. In terms of industry, as you said, so much of filmmaking and particularly the technical aspects, they still go to Madras. About that, I have certainly no issue, Sridhar. Yes, I agree with you. But for me, as I was seeing this film, I was just wondering, why Tamil and Telugu, as the two other languages, where contestation is happening, and why not some other language? So one explanation, as you said, could be to launch Kamala Hassan into the language of the neighboring cinema. Any other points anyone else wants to make? Professor Tirupati Kumar has just joined us now. I don't know if it's because it's a Telugu film that sir has joined us, and if you would like to say something about this film. Hello, sir.
Hello. Yeah, it's too late. I came from a reception, so it is too late. Yeah.
No, I was just wondering if you joined because it's a Telugu film.
Yeah, it is one of the reasons also. I just wanted to know your perspective. I saw this movie 2-3 times.
Okay.
So, this is turning out to be the age of traditional marriages. People are getting killed when they go for intercaste marriages. Why did they all choose this particular topic at this juncture?
Yeah, Nishi, yeah, so generally the person who suggests the film, who initiates discussion, it's their prerogative. Dr. Nishi Pulgurta is here. She has just, she will speak better about her choice of the film. Nishi, over to you.
This film because I was interested in Shakespeare adaptation in Hindi, in Indian cinema. And I didn't want to do something on Hindi or Bengali films about which there's quite a lot of work in the area done. So I wanted to pick up a Telugu film for this, and that's the reason why I chose this particular film. And I'm working on a paper, actually, a research paper on this. So I thought I would bring it up for discussion here in Talking Films Online, because the discussion that ensues here in TFO is really wonderful. I know I'm going to go back. I already have quite a lot of things that I need to think and rethink. So that's the only reason why I chose the film. But I also think, as someone was saying, that it's a film which is, I think, that it's a film which is not dated. You can sit through the film and watch it. So that is the only reason.
Okay. When did you see this movie for the first time?
For the first time, maybe a few years ago, 10 years ago, maybe.
But this is a movie, this is our teenage movie. 40 years ago.
Yes, I know, but since I'm not located in either Andhra or Telangana right now, I've always been located in Kolkata. So my first point of access to this film was the remake of this film in 1981 called Ek Duje Ke Liye. So that is the film that I was more familiar with. And
okay.
I came back, I saw MARO CHARITRA much later on, maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Okay. I missed the discussion. I don't know, trouble people. It's already quite late. So, why did you develop interest in this particular movie? Why did you choose?
Because of my interest in Shakespeare.
I know that. Why did you develop that interest? What is the context?
Why did I develop that interest? Because of my interest in films.
I'm curious to know about the theme.
So she's been working on, Nishi's been working on Shakespeare adaptations into different Indian language films. So it's in that context that, yeah, she has chosen this Telugu film for discussion. Yeah.
Do films promote, do such films promote castelessness? Do they really encourage true love?
This film doesn't even bring up the question of caste. I mean, it's there, but it's never prominently mentioned. While the Marathi film that I spoke about last time, Sairat, does bring caste openly into the Romeo-Juliet story, but this film absolutely it's mentioned a little bit once, I think, just it's mentioned, but otherwise it's not there at all.
In fact, I think the question of language becomes prominent not to bring up caste prominently.
Okay, so this is deliberately to hide it.
It is not hiding it. That is also quite interesting. Generally, in Indian cinema, the caste gets articulated as class. Here it comes out as a caste, basically as veg and non-veg, initially.
Okay.
But that doesn't become prominent later. The conflict is basically between veg and non-veg, but later it becomes like a question of language. So unlike other films in Indian film industry, this brings up the caste question, but it doesn't become prominent. The language becomes prominent later on in the narrative. That's quite interesting.
Okay. So, yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir, you want to say something?
No, nothing much. Suppose if it were to be adopted now, do you think the director would choose the same kind of theme?
I think Nishi spoke about a recent remake of the film in 2010. I haven't watched it. Nishi, you have?
Watched a little bit. I didn't watch the whole of it. There was a Telugu adaptation, a Telugu remake of this film. I have not watched it.
Oh, I mean, yeah. One of you, I mean, there can be an interesting study. You must have heard about Avara, the movie Avara, where Rajkumar is the protagonist. Have you all heard about any of you heard about this movie Avara?
Yes, Raj Kapoor, not Raj.
Yeah, Raj Kapoor, not Rajkumar, Raj Kapoor. Yeah. So there, what is presented is right. It is the social milieu. It is your social factor that makes the difference in your life. Nobody is born a thief, or nobody is born a gentleman. A gentleman's son can be, I mean, if he is taken away and put in another environment, so he can turn out to be a bandit. He can turn out to be a crook, and a crook's son can become something different. But the same theme gets negated by the very Raj Kapoor in 1970s. That gets reflected again in one of the Telugu movies. The lead role is now what they are saying, it is the blood. It is not the social factor, but it is the blood. Right? Even if the son is raised in a middle class family, he still carries the Jamindari outlook, the Jamindari dynamism. Allu Aravind son's, what is his name of Allu? Is it Allu Arjun?
Yeah.
Nikhila?
Yes. Allu Arjun. Yes.
Yeah. An year ago or 2 years ago, that movie had come, where Bombay Sri, Jayasree and others sing a song, a very traditional song. I'm not getting that name. So these adaptations, the themes also change. I mean, today, I don't know. I observe the lot of revisionist themes are coming into being. It is not the social factor. It is not the social cinema, but it is very unknowingly the class is privileged, is getting privileged. The birth is getting privileged, and very indirectly suggests that blood is important. So when blood becomes important, all the tradition also come into being. Okay.
Nishi, do you want to say anything at this point?
Just vague remembrance of the remake of the Telugu film, which was, I think, released in 2010 or 11, I'm not sure. But as I have a vague memory of that, I haven't seen it well. I mean, not with so much of attention. But I think it still talks about language. But this time we have both characters located in the US. Right. So maybe I'll go back to watching that, what it is all about after some time.
Yeah.
Maybe I will intervene some other time. So I would like to learn. I don't know anything about films. I generally watch and forget.
Okay.
Okay.
So if no one else has anything to say at this point, I will start by thanking Nishi. Nishi, thank you so much. You've been a real friend of TFO, not only coming on for film discussions like this, but also giving lectures as part of our annual series. And today, again, we've had a wonderful discussion of MARO CHARITRA, an important film which we have revisited for a whole set of questions, I think. Yes, Nishi.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you
always
very
a
much.
pleasure being part of TFO. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for joining today. We will meet again with another film next Saturday. So have a good weekend and good night.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.